Hey folks, do you know what comedy, friendship, and sobriety all have in common? They're all things that we talk about on our podcasts over at Duck Duck Grey Duke. We've got Duck Duck Grey Duke, the not-so-anonymous alcoholic, and we've got Dude Absolutely. Comedians, mental health experts, addicts in recovery, and addicts in active addiction. Head on over to Duck Duck Grey Duke, wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube and iHeartMedia. Thank you.
Dating and comedy? That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 137.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. Dan Bublitz Jr. here with you on Friday. I hope everybody's had a fantastic week, or at least the best week they can possibly have, given the situation. I hope you're ready for the weekend. I hope the weekend's brighter. I'm well aware that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world today, especially here in the Twin Cities where I reside. However, I'm not going to talk about them because that's not what this podcast is about. So instead, I'm going to get right on with the business. Today on the show, my guest is Lauren Rice. We had a great conversation. She's a newer comic in the Twin Cities. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you today. Before I do that, though, let's talk about some stuff. If you need a break from all this craziness and you're listening to this on Friday, the day that it releases, tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and 7 p.m. Pacific Time, I'm doing a virtual comedy show with my buddy David Allen Freitas. We're doing a Zoom show, so it is a private show. The tickets are $5 plus the service fees for the event site. That's $5 and some change. I mean, $7 tops. It's not even that. Probably not even that. So all you got to do is buy a ticket. You'll get a code to enter the Zoom meeting, and it'll be a fun live virtual comedy show with me and David. So if you need a break from all the craziness, I recommend coming and checking that out. And you can get tickets at my website, danbublitz.com. They're also available on Eventbrite. If you just search for sit-down stand-up comedy or search my name, Dan Bublitz Jr. or David Allen Freitas, you will find tickets available there. So it'll be a nice break from all the craziness. Everybody could use a little laughter right now, especially now. And then this weekend, if you ain't doing anything on Saturday, I have Exposed, my virtual storytelling show that goes on. That's on the Facebook. It streams live on Facebook. So that's on my comedy page, Dan Bublitz Jr. Check that out if you need something to do and need a break from all the craziness. So with that being said, we're going to get into this conversation. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. You can visit the website, artofbombingpod.com, and we're on the social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a Facebook group for fans and guests of the Art of Bombing. It's a comedy-related group, so if you want to go talk shop, go check out that group. All right, so here's my conversation with Lauren. Enjoy. Not to do the homework, and then Sunday comes along and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta hurry up and get all my homework done. Monday.
Yep, that is called the art of procrastination. I used to feel really bad about that, but it's actually, if you use it correctly, it's really beneficial.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because my procrastination actually leads into a schedule, because now I know Sundays and Mondays I do homework.
Yeah, see, there you go.
It ends up being a schedule. I leave them days dedicated for homework. So, yeah, so then I can play the rest of the week.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how are you doing? You've been doing a lot more content online these days.
Yeah, it's so funny because now that I'm not working, I have so much time to do all these stupid things online, which I've been thinking about for a while and wanting to do, and then something else work-wise would come up, or I didn't know how to film it or something. So it's been really fun. And I think too, when I started putting it out there and then people would respond positively is kind of like a feedback loop. So you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll put some more out because it's fun for me. And then to know you like made someone's day when they're stuck alone at home or something is like, there's nothing that feels better than that.
Yeah, very true. Now, did you lose your job because of the COVID stuff? Is that why you're unemployed, or was it before that?
Nope, it's actually completely because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
So both of my jobs,
yeah.
I was working in sales and retail, and that's all one-on-one human interaction. So nothing you can do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And there's only certain stores, I think, like basically big like department stores, I think, are the only ones that have really been allowed to be open.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why my day gig, that's why I'm laid off too. So. Because of the COVID, but it is what it is. Now, it's interesting too, because you, before we get into the rest of the podcast, because this is kind of an interesting thing, you're a single lady and you've been living in the virtual world and you've been going on dates. It's crazy to me because that brings a whole new meaning to online dating.
It really does. You know what is so funny? I don't think I'll go back to dating like I was before ever again.
Really?
Because yeah, I'm so serious. I am always going to make people FaceTime me before I agree to meet them in person because you can tell a lot. And I do not think that would be the case. Like for one of the guys I FaceTime, I was all over the place. I was like practicing some of my characters because I just don't care, you know, and he just thought I was super crazy. And so like, so then the next day he unmatched with me and I was like, taken care of. See, like if we had gone on a date, you never know if I wouldn't have been in this state where I would feel comfortable doing characters in front of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then another guy, I'm terrible at goodbyes. So if I'm with a person, I'm so curious. And even if I don't like them, I will want to know about them. So it's a drawback to me when I'm dating people because I'll just end up talking and they're like, oh, this girl's so into me. And I'm really not. And
and now you can shut your computer. You're like,
yeah. No, I kid you not. I was trying to say goodbye to this guy and I was like, okay, it's over now. I just disappeared from the screen.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And one guy, I got hungry in the middle of it. And again, I still feel kind of bad saying bye or just like hanging up on people randomly. So I just started preparing a snack and then I broke the dish while he was on live stream.
I've seen that. So that's funny too, because did you tell him at least that you're like, hey, I'm hungry, I'm going to go make a snack and then leave, or did you just like?
No, so that's the funny thing is like people have so little to do that watching me make a snack is more interesting than whatever he was going to do by himself. So part of it is like everyone's kind of lonely, so they want that interaction anyway. But yeah, he watched me sweep it up, vacuum it up. Yeah, I was like, oh wow. Cause I kind of wanted to say goodbye, but for some reason I just wasn't like, okay, nice to meet you. I'm not interested. I always feel weird doing that. It's so hard for me to do that. So yeah, that same guy, I was like, or I think he asked me directly, he's like, so what do you think of me? Like, are you into the way I look? And I was like, you know what? Honestly, I can't tell. I can't see your full body. And he stood up and I was like, okay, I still can't tell. Can you flex for me? I'm totally joking at this point. He pulls his shirt up and he's like,
oh God. That's
yeah. He must be like very proud of the way he looks.
So it's like, are you, it's like, are you really dating people or are you just messing with them at this point?
Honestly, it sucks. I'm the worst person to date because I can't stop joking. So if you don't understand that I'm joking, you just like, you can't come with me. Like I don't know.
No, absolutely. No, that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of the same. I feel like that with funny people that your significant other has to have a sense of humor or at least have the ability to be okay with it and understand what you're doing. You know what I mean? Cause there's people, you know, that I just like my first wife actually was not into comedy, and like, you know, we ended up not working out, which is fine. But now that I think about it, I'm like, how did that even happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
in the first
totally,
place.
in the first place, just because we're two opposite people, you know, and yeah, just not into comedy. And it's like, wait a minute, like, and at that time I wasn't a comedian, you know, I just was a fan of comedy.
Yeah. It's so funny how as you get older, you kind of realize how much more it matters to you. Cause I thought I didn't care, but especially when you start dating, it becomes more and more obvious that it will not work if people don't understand you're joking around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Oh, yeah.
if they can't see humor in things that are really difficult, that's hard too. So they get
Mm-hmm.
too serious all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've never been serious, really.
Yeah, neither have I. Oh my
I'm
gosh,
not.
no.
I don't have time to be serious. It's more of you got to laugh at the seriousness. I mean, I can be
Yeah.
an adult and do adult things and not always a child, but I'm usually always a child.
Yeah, definitely. I think even more recently, like this year, I've just been giving up on whether people understand my sense of humor or not and just like throwing it out there. Like, whatever, if you get it, good for you. Like, we'll maybe be friends, but if not, next person, you know?
Yep. No, that's the way to do it. You can't be wasting your time, and no sense in wasting their time too. You know, it's like
Yeah.
if you can tell that it's not right or not going to work, there's no sense of, you can't force anything. That's the thing. You know, especially with dating, people don't realize, or they don't understand, is you'll have two people that are completely not compatible in most ways, but they have that physical attraction, and they'll try to make it work and try to make it work, and then they fight all the time and just, oh, but we gotta work, you know, whatever, and
Yeah.
then it just doesn't. And it'd be way easier if they're just like, you know what, we don't,
We don't get along.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not good. We don't
Yeah.
work together. We should just part ways.
Yeah. Okay, I have a question because I'm interested in this about funny people. Do you have a lot of people who feel like they connect with you deeply because you're good at making people laugh? So like quickly when you meet them, they're like, "Oh my gosh, we have this connection I don't have with a lot of people." Do you?
I don't. No, I don't really see that. I guess I have. I mean,
I bet it
no,
happens to you, and
it
you.
maybe does happen, and
Yeah.
I'm just not aware of it, because I'm very not aware of a lot of things like
Yeah.
that.
I need to ask more. I need to ask around a little more because that has
I
come
guess
up recently.
I don't really pay attention to that either.
Yeah, that's
Really.
true. Well,
I mean,
also you're in a relationship too, right?
yeah,
So
I
that's
am.
a
But
little
I'm not
different.
like, yeah, yeah. Even when I wasn't, I don't think I really, like, I didn't really pay attention to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether or not people were, you know, saying that. At least I can't remember a time when somebody said that to me. Like,
Yeah.
you know, as far as because I was funny. I mean, I've obviously been able to connect with people, but not that was necessarily the root of it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's awesome. What are you drinking?
I am drinking bubbly sparkling water, pineapple.
Oh, yum. I love those. Definitely can't see that label, but I know what you're talking about.
My light system, my camera's not very good with I don't know, it's just my camera on my laptop, so it's not very good. I have a new camera coming, so hopefully that'll be better. My laptop's like 4 years old, so almost 5 years old, so I have a new webcam coming, and hopefully that'll increase the quality to adjust some of this white balance, because I am as white as a ghost with this lighting.
At least though I can see your face and your reactions and everything, so that's the main thing.
That's good.
That's most important.
Otherwise, I'm just like a Casper the Ghost floating around the red.
That's my favorite joke. Did I tell you my favorite joke? It's so stupid.
Huh? What?
You reminded me of my favorite joke about Casper the Friendly Pickle.
Friendly pickle?
Yeah, because what's green and can go through walls?
Oh, Jesus.
I love it because there's no way you'd get that.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Yeah, but sometimes the dumbest jokes are the best jokes.
That's true. Those
The
are the
ones that make that they're just so dumb. That's what makes them funny.
Oh yeah, that's the kind of stuff I laugh at. And I feel like probably a lot of comedians are like that too, because you know what to expect with a lot of other jokes, and then if it's really off the wall, you can't see it coming.
Oh yeah, yep. You don't see that element of surprise and that misdirection coming.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen to me quite a bit, where like you think a joke is gonna go one way because you can kind of predict it, and a lot of times it can predict where somebody's going with the joke, and then there'll be that time where it'll go totally different direction, and I'm like, you got me.
Yeah. I love that.
Well done. Oh yeah, yep. Clap, clap, clap. Give them the applause. The applause breaks.
Yep, yeah.
Now you just started doing stand-up comedy here within the last year. Is that correct?
Yep.
But
That's
you
correct.
did years of improv.
Yeah, I did.
What made you decide that you wanted to go from doing improv into stand-up?
You know, it was funny. I was in an improv group in the fall. They kind of invited me to join the group this past summer, or the year before in the summer. And I think after the last show I did with them, I was like, I need to find a different direction, and I don't know what it is. And then I had really been going through what creative projects I'd had in the back of my mind that I had been curious about and always wanted to try. And stand-up was one of those things. So I honestly was thinking I would switch over to short form improv, because I had been doing long form where you get one suggestion at the beginning of the show and then play off that the whole time. Have you done improv?
Yeah, I did some improv training. I haven't been like part of a group and performed a lot, but I take some classes now and again. So, and I actually prefer long form improv over short form.
Yeah. You can definitely build more of a story. There's benefits to both, I think.
Absolutely. Really, I feel like for a stand up, the long form is better for because it helps you with your stage presence, and then doing like act outs and things like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I like that better. I mean, playing the games and stuff, like, yeah, that'll keep your mind sharp, but playing energy ball or whatever isn't going to necessarily help me on stage. Like, I ain't going to be able to just suddenly go into a silly improv game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true. I think why I want to try it is because I love how you're interacting with the audience so much, and that appeals to me a lot.
Yeah.
But who knows if I would like it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is the only reason I'm really interested in the long form is because it can help my stand up. I'm not actually interested in doing improv, like being part of a group or whatever. I'm more looking at it. It helps me with my writing, and it helps me with my stage presence and doing like act outs and characters and that sort of thing. Yeah. And those are all tools and skills you develop through long form versus the short form. Because short form is more like games, but I mean, you can do some character work or whatever, but you're really not building on much. It's too
Well, I think that the people who are best at short form are also really good at long form, or they started in long form and then moved to short form, because they know how to get into those characters super fast.
Yeah. Oh, and that could very well be. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not discouraging anybody that are saying anybody that does short form improv is doing, as bad or whatever. It's like, do whatever you want. I just know for me, that's why I look at, long form versus short form. But if it's something somebody wants to try, by all means, because a lot of people do love doing, and there's a lot more people that want to go when they see improv. They automatically think of whose line is it anyway. And that's definitely the kind of improv show that they want to go see versus, you said, like a long form. You really have to be, because long form's not always funny.
Right.
It has fun spots. There's a lot of, you spend more time building tension to get the laugh versus, just short, quick.
Yeah.
Everybody laugh and be entertained.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the challenge of it too. That's why it appealed to me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I guess that's kind of how I ended up trying stand-up. And then I really liked it. I was not good. I'm still not really that good, but I still like it, which is so weird to me. A lot of people in my family are like, are you even making people laugh? Why are you doing this to yourself?
Laugh.
And I was like, you guys, can you just let me be mediocre at something? Like, is there, is there anything wrong with being bad at it? Like, no, it's fun. They'll get over it, I think.
Well, hopefully. It's not, but that's the beauty of it. It's not up to them to decide what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely, my family really, my dad's been very supportive of me, but it was quite a conversation when I decided to quit my job and go out and move to California to do comedy. Like, I had that conversation with my dad, and I was like 32 years old. I had been working at the same company for like 10 years. I was making really good money. And so my dad was just like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah. Did he try to talk you out of it then?
No, not really. He totally supported me. He basically the conversation was, you know what? I understand you want to follow your dreams, and if that's what you really want to do, go for it. Totally support you. But I wouldn't be your dad if I didn't say you were crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically,
Definitely.
said his piece about, that it was kind of silly to quit my job and all this and blah, 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 whatever. But he was fully supportive. So, no, my dad's been great as far as my comedy goes. He's like my biggest fan. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's so funny how that goes with parents. Because I feel like they are very supportive of me, but at the same time, they're always telling me like, that's a terrible choice. You shouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. And then I do it anyway and realize, yes, it was a terrible choice.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of times our parents are just trying to like look out for us, and they've had these experiences. But on the other side of it, what they don't understand is we need to experience these things, whether it's good or bad. You still need to have that experience so you can kind of learn for yourself. Because, it's easy that they can all day long be like, you don't want to do that. Trust me, I've been there. And you can just listen to them, and then you're not going to have any experiences in life,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a twofold situation, if you will. Well, let's get into your story about bombing. I'm curious because we talked beforehand a little bit.
Yeah.
Since you haven't really did stand up a whole lot, I was like, well, it can be an improv or whatever. So I'm interested to see what you came up with.
So I'm going to talk about that last show I did in improv. Mm. And it's funny because being in a group, their perspective on it is probably very different from my perspective. Each and every person in the group thinks differently about it.
Yep.
So what happened was we were doing the fundraising event at Huge Theater, and we got a morning slot. And so everyone in the audience has been there overnight already to watch a bunch of shows. And then they're trying to like keep their eyes open for this like 9 a.m. show or whatever morning time we had. And it was actually our group's first time going on Huge stage as our group also. So everyone in the group was just like on edge, nervous. And, we got out there and it was brutal. Like 5 minutes into the show, we couldn't get anything going. Like one of us would throw something out and then it would like fall flat in a minute or two. And then someone else would throw something out and our characters would like clash. And so it was like the basics of yes and were just like not coming together to create anything interesting. It was brutal. I remember clearly looking up at the clock and being like, oh my gosh, we have 15 more minutes left. And everyone is at a level of anxiety I've never seen before. And the audience is so disengaged, so uninterested. I wanted to like break that. What is that called?
The fourth wall?
Fourth wall. There we go. I wanted so badly to break the fourth wall, and I totally should have been like, can you guys fake laugh or something? Like react to anything? Cause nothing was happening. It was like silence. Like I think we had one of our advisors was in the back of the room for part of it, and she was like, ha, ha. And it was so fake. And after the show, she was like, you guys had some great ideas. So fun. And we were all like, or I personally, I can't speak for everyone because you never want to do that in a group setting, but I was like, that's a Minnesota nice way of saying that was not a good show. It was brutal.
Well, and if bad improv is bad improv, it's bad. Bad improv is terrible improv. I'm one of them people. There's, when it comes to stand up and improv being compared a lot, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of people that either like one thing or the other, and it's kind of like this feud or whatever. And I've seen plenty of improv that has been great, but I have seen improv that was horrible to watch, and it was even worse than watching a bad stand-up set. You know what I mean? It was worse than watching somebody bomb at a show doing stand-up, because now you're not watching just one person bomb, you're watching a whole group of people bomb together.
Yeah, and it's like, you would hope that one person is maybe having an okay day and they could say something interesting or useful. And, oh man, they also had this button on the wall where you could call in some better improvisers. So someone in our group called in the better improvisers, and when they came, they brought in a whole new storyline that totally let go of everything else we had set up.
Oh.
So it just made it even worse, and it is bad.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I mean, because you really, especially with long form improv, you have to have good chemistry with your group too.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I felt like when I left the group, it was nothing personal to them. I just felt like I wanted to try a different direction with comedy. Mm-hmm. And it was like, maybe they felt like we all meshed, but for some reason I felt like we didn't. And it didn't mean that any one of us was bad at comedy or improv or anything. It just meant that for some reason we didn't have the chemistry you need to do improv well. So put any one of us in a different group and maybe we would work together well, but for some reason I just didn't feel like it was meshing. So.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't feel like it's meshing, you're not going to mesh with the other people. I mean,
right.
Right. The chemistry has to be both ways. It's not, it's got to be both people have to feel that chemistry, and one person it's just like relationships, one person can feel passion about somebody and have that chemistry, and that other person does not feel it, so they don't reciprocate. So it's kind of the same thing.
It is. And when I left the group, I felt like I was breaking up with someone. It was so weird. Sounds funny to you, but it was crappy because I was like, everyone's going to take it personally because there's no way you can't, Yeah. It's just, it's nothing personal, but.
Look at Lauren. She's too good for us now.
Yeah, I think that's what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like, but there's nothing you can do. I think they can see now when I've shifted my focus to stand up that there is a different direction I want to go. Because I think too, something that I didn't like was, this sounds so bad too, is when anyone tries to put a structure on whatever is being made in improv, then I don't like it as much. I like it to be so free, I
was going to say, putting structure on it isn't really improv either.
Yeah, so it's weird.
It's more, because when you start putting structure on improv, it's more like sketch versus improv.
Right. Well, it's very different from sketch still, but I don't know how much you know about the different ways you can set up improv, but there are setups. So you hit one event and then you go to a new event and then you circle back to that first event. Even if none of that is planned, you have that in the back of your mind that you're going to revisit something. So.
Well, you should always be looking for opportunity for callbacks, but you can do that because that's what that is. You're event. But that you don't have to have it structured and planned to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You should definitely be thinking about that and looking for. To me, you really need to you should be looking for the opportunities for that, not forcing your way back to that.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you're saying with the structure. You're already planning to go. It's in your head that, okay, this is going to happen, then we're going to go here, but then we got to get back to here, which you're right. Cause then it's not, it becomes forced versus organic, kind of free.
And it can still be really free even if you have that structure, but there's something about it that I don't like, and I don't know why.
Well, it's to each their own. I mean, I myself, I think, I know improv expert, I've had some training, but a lot of what I've learned is you should be looking for the opportunity, not trying to force it in there. I mean,
Yeah,
you
for
want to
sure.
you want to work for the laugh and get that get the laugh naturally instead of just trying to force something.
Yeah, I think I need another thing that I didn't like as much about it is there's a lot more control over what you can make fun of in the improv community versus what you can make fun of in stand-up, if that makes sense. I don't know if you have seen that at all.
Well, no, because I'm not in the improv scene. I honestly, I've not been to one of the improv clubs since, or one of the improv, I don't know, clubs or schools or whatever you want to call theaters. There we go. I've not been to one improv theater since I moved up here. In fact, the classes that I take are independent. They're not associated with any particular improv theater.
Got it. Okay.
So I know a few stand-ups that kind of go back and forth with improv a little bit, but other than that, I don't really know. And then my instructor, I don't know people in the improv scene really. So.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, and I think it has to do with having more than one person in whatever you're creating, probably, is because you have a different idea of what you want to poke fun at, and then what you feel is okay to poke fun at is different too. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I could see that. I mean, because that's one thing that I'm not, for me personally, that I'm not attracted to when it comes to improv, is having to depend on so many other people.
Yeah.
With stand up, if I have a bad set or a bomb, whatever, that's on me.
Yeah.
Also, on the same note, if I have a great set, that's on me. Like, I don't have to depend on other people, because you can be, and I'm often that person. I'm not a very good, I don't feel like I'm a very strong improviser. So when I'm with the group, I feel like the weakest link. And, if the whole group kind of bombs because one or two people in the group aren't very strong, like, this whole group still bombs. You know what I mean? Like, and even if you're the good person on the team, you're still having a bad set because somebody else is not very good at and because it all goes to the, depending on other people. But with stand up, it's just me, the microphone, and a stool, and a crowd full of people that I hope will laugh at my jokes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like you said, a blessing and a curse because it's all on you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and like I said, I really do think, and I encourage stand-ups that are curious about improv. I really do think you should take classes still.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to be, a performer, improv performer, or improviser, the classes are still good. I've learned a lot from the classes. In fact, I plan I should be taking classes now, but with COVID and everything that's going on, the classes are postponed or whatever. So but
do you do the classes in person?
Well, yeah, that's what we were doing. The instructor has been doing some virtual stuff, but I'm not interested. I don't care what anybody tells me that, it's still fun. It's not the same.
No, it's not.
You cannot do improv over FaceTime or over Zoom.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
No. So, oh my gosh. I cannot.
I'm not gonna, cause she's doing free drop-in classes with the donation option or whatever. And I get, she's got to try to make some money or whatever. I understand that, cause if that's her, how she makes money, good, I get that. But for me, I'm not sold on it, just because to me, you have to be in the room, because you need to be able to react and work off the chemistry and the energy of your improvisers, and you're not going to get that energy with a virtual improv session. It's the same thing as stand-up comedy. I've been playing around and doing some of this virtual shows or whatever, but it's still not the same.
I know.
Telling jokes on Instagram Live will never be the same as telling a joke in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
So
there's so much feedback you're missing when you're doing the open mics online. I will say the one reason I do like doing them is because it makes me think about writing again.
Oh,
and
absolutely. I'm not saying
restructuring.
don't do them. I'm just saying it ain't going to replace live comedy.
No, not at all.
I've been doing a few of the mics and virtual shows and stuff, and I've been having fun with it. I'm not taking it. I don't take them serious, but like you, it's been getting me to write. So.
Yeah. And also just a little bit of human interaction. It's good to see other comedians' faces, because I was getting used to seeing all these people like 3 or 4 times a week, and then nothing. Yep. So sad. I don't know. I'm such a people person.
Yeah, it definitely can be. Well, see, and I was just having this conversation with another comic. It's like, I'm not this whole, people are freaking out and I'm more social now virtually than I was before. Just in the sense that I would go do open mics and stuff, but I'm not like one that I was like hanging out, I do my spot, get that done, my stuff that I'm trying to work on. And then I want to hang out at home, because home is where all my good stuff is. You know what I mean? Like, I like being home, So, but now that this has happened, I've been way more social.
Well, I think that's kind of a blessing of it too, is because like you, I've been able to meet more comedians that I wouldn't be running into at the mics just because they live further away or something like that. But I am strange, so I talk to new people all the time. Like, that's how we met the first time.
Yeah.
So I was like, who are you?
Yeah. But that's, I get that, because you and I've seen you, because the time that we had met, the first time we had met, you pretty much were just like talking to everybody. Didn't matter if they were a comic. Like, wow, that's pretty ballsy and very very outgoing. I'm not that way. Like, I'm not trying to like talk to strangers if I can help it. But it's like you can tell the difference though, like between who the comics are versus who are not comics. You know what I mean? Like,
in general, I definitely prefer talking to comics because they're funny people. But I love talking to strangers. I get into all kinds of deep conversations with people I meet on the street. It's the funniest thing ever.
Hey, to each their own. I'm just like, don't talk to me. But I'm horrible when it comes to that kind of stuff, on how I see people.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't care. I mean, I do my social interacting from stage, and then after that, I do what I have to do but like I said, for me, this whole thing hasn't really bothered me much. I've been a homebody. If anything, it has encouraged me to drink more, but not because I'm depressed. Because now I think I feel like I have to have alcohol in the house, and then if I have to have alcohol in the house, I have to drink it.
Did you see that Ina Garten thing that people are ripping on?
The what?
Do you know who Ina Garten is?
No.
She's a famous cook. That's probably not what you call them. Chef. Something.
Oh, chef. Okay.
From Food Network. And she's getting ripped apart for encouraging drinking at home to get through the coronavirus pandemic.
Oh, wow.
It's the funniest thing ever.
It is kind of funny. I mean, I could see people getting upset with that being what you're encouraging to get through it. I'm not drinking because I'm depressed and trying to get through this. I like having drinks. And so for me, before I would have an occasional drink when I was at a show or a mic. So I don't get like drunk. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not drinking to get drunk. I have a couple drinks here and there. So like when I was able to go to mics and shows, have a drink here, have a drink there, I didn't need alcohol at home now. Now I can't go to do shows and be in places where I can have a beer with the dinner or whatever. So now I feel like, well, I got to have it at home. And it's in the fridge. And I'm like, well, now I have to drink it.
Just because it's there. Gotta do something about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I laughed so hard. I was with my sister at a liquor store, and she had her face mask on and a hat on, and the woman checking IDs was like, and then she just gave up. She could not tell at all if it was my sister or not.
At that point, I mean, because it's alcohol, the lady should have been like, you got to pull your mask down. Just
Yeah.
I have to make sure this is you.
Yeah.
Especially if, because if there was law enforcement there, they could have.
She'd be in huge trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
I laughed so hard.
that's hilarious.
I know.
I'm at the age where I don't get carded very often. They just ask me my birth date.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
A lot of times, yeah. Like I just went to the liquor store the other day to resupply, and the cashier didn't even ask to check my ID. She just was like, "What's your birth date?" And I was like,
That's hilarious.
My birth date.
Oh man.
Stuff, and away I went.
Yeah. No, I still sometimes are like, "Are you over 18? You're supposed to be out this late? Can you come to this movie?"
Well, I think that a lot when I'm out.
Yeah.
And I don't do like a lot of, like, I'm not a big, like, go to bars or clubs or whatever, but if I'm out at a bar sometimes and I see younger people, I'm just like, are they even old enough to be here?
Probably not.
Well, then, but some are, like.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look at me.
Yeah, exactly. You don't look like you're old enough to be in a bar.
Yeah.
But I've ran into, like, I used to own a comic book store, and it closed like 10 years ago or whatever. And there was times when I was at the bar, when I went back to where the town where I had it is, whatever, I ran into kids that used to hang out at my comic book store.
Yeah.
At the bars. And
you were like, you are not.
I'm too old.
Yeah.
Like,
you're like, no more bar.
You are not old enough to be here. And they're like, yeah, we are. And, oh my God, they are 21.
They showed you. That's super funny. Yeah, it does feel weird when you get past a certain age to go to those areas where they hang out. You're like, did I behave like this? Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm that guy. I'm that old guy watching younger people like, oh, they're so annoying. And then I'm like, did I act that way? Oh my God, I was so annoying.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that getting older, that's what it is. Now, when you have a bad set or obviously with the improv, I don't know, do you, like, if you have a bad set with improv, like that show, how do you analyze that as far as, like, to try to, like, figure out what went wrong to try to maybe improve next time? Is there even a...
So that's really hard. I think the best way to do that is to have an advisor, because if you do it as a group, it can be really tricky because it looks like you're just putting someone down. But my last improv class I took was on how to give each other feedback in a healthy way. So you can say, this wasn't good, but I liked that. So you're just making sure you're not completely putting the person down. You're saying something that they did well and then something that you thought was not good or not helpful. But you can't do a lot of feedback, otherwise it just brings the group down and you end up having one person who's trying to kind of control what happens if you do a lot of the feedback. So
it's kind of more of you have to be able to give each other constructive feedback.
Yeah. Or every group does.
I was going to say that goes back to having good chemistry and with people, because if you're working with people like a creative partner that you get along with good and you vibe good with and you have good chemistry, you're able to, be real and be like, hey, you sucked at that, whatever, know, and then they can do the same for you, where they're like, hey man, I just got to let you know that was not good. Maybe you should try, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have that capacity to be able to be more constructive if you have chemistry in the first place.
Yeah. And a lot of times people have good self-awareness. So when you say something, they're going to be like, you know what? No, I noticed that too. I need to do something different. Or when we practice, I'm going to work on that. So people are normally really good about it. As long as you come from a good place and you're not trying to just attack the person, they usually are really good about taking the feedback. So.
Which is good. You really have to. Yeah. Cause there are a lot of people that get sensitive, even like with stand up, like, a lot of stand-ups are the most sensitive people I've ever met. I'm like, really, why are you getting so bothered? Why are you in stand-up? You're so sensitive.
You know what is the funny thing about that? I think that sensitivity is part of why you like stand-up too, because you get so much energy off of the audience or interacting with people, and you can see what people are feeling, and part of being that aware helps you say what's funny or point out what's going on. But then it also has the drawback of you being like, if someone comes at you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like that happens a lot with comics. They take everything personal, which is not, it's definitely not good or not healthy to do that all the time. You gotta just let things go, like brush it off the shoulder.
Right. I think that's a big learning curve no matter what you're doing. You have to separate, like, this is something I did from this is who I am. And then when you can do that, you take a lot of things way less personally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's totally true.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do now with stand-up? Because you haven't been doing it very long. Honestly, how long have you been doing stand-up?
Since January. That's when I first started.
So just this year. So you've only been doing it for about 4 months
Yeah.
now. Well, 3 months because we haven't really been able
I don't know if you want to count this.
Can we count this month or not? It's funny because I typically keep a comedy journal.
Yeah.
And and that way at the end of the year I can compare the previous year, so I know if I got more stage time and if I made more money and all this stuff. I have all these stats that I've been keeping track of.
That's cool.
And I looked at it for this year and I'm like, geez, do I even bother?
Oh no.
It's like I did January and February and I'm like, does it matter now? I pretty much already know what's going to happen. I'm not going to have as much stage time as I did last year, and I'm not going to make as much money as I did last year.
No one is. That's so sad, but that's how it is with everything. And I think that being an athlete has really helped me learn that type of thing, that it's never a direct route to where you want to be. It's always like a little bit forward and 4 steps back, and then you come back up and go ahead, and then you slide down. So it's just really always.
It's a process. It's a process. That's for sure. That is for sure. So you've been doing it like 3 or 4 months. What do you try to do when you feel like you had a bad set? What do you try to do to improve for the next time?
So I started recording them, and that has actually been really helpful because a lot of times my perception of it will be more negative than it actually was. So when I go through and listen to it, I can say, okay, you spoke English at least, It's not really as bad as I imagined it was. But so that's been really helpful. And then you can also see very concretely, like, where people laugh and what works well and what doesn't. So I really like doing that. And then if I have a bad set, I think that the best thing has been just writing it out, writing what happened, and then getting on stage again as soon as I can, just to kind of let that experience go.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good lead into the next question. How the bumming of bombing, that's what we've coined it on this podcast. The dreadful
bumming of bombing?
The bumming of bombing.
Okay.
Yep, that's the dreadful feeling you get from bombing.
Yeah.
How long does that typically last for you?
Well, let's see. If I can go and get on stage, like if I do a really bad set and then I go on the same night, it only lasts whatever time is in between those two. And if it takes a few days, I think it's lasted a few days sometimes. Mm-hmm. But normally if I can write it out or get a good workout in, I can let it go.
Do you feel like that, like, because you're a trained athlete and you've done athletics probably, I assume, your entire life. Do you feel like that's helped you, like, build endurance and, like, or not necessarily endurance, but resistance against stuff like that? Like, that these are, like, failure is part of the process. Like, you have to get your reps in before you'll get good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think my perspective on running shapes the way I approach everything in life. Because when I was younger, it was more about winning a race or something. And now it's about what it does for me mentally or who it makes me as a person. So that's kind of how I approach comedy as well. It's where I end up going with it isn't as important to me as how hard I work at it or like how it challenges me, if that makes sense. So I can I'm able to let go of things that hit me a little more easily because of that perspective, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Helping with that. Now, I have some other stuff that I usually a fun question that I've been doing, but I don't know if you'll have an answer to this because you haven't been doing stand up very long. But maybe.
Okay.
What's the worst thing you've said to somebody from stage?
The worst thing, I haven't said a lot of terrible things, but I made fun of the way people were laughing. So that's probably the worst thing I did.
The worst.
Yeah.
That's a mean thing, making fun
I know.
of somebody laughs, because the fact that they're laughing, you should be thankful for that.
Well, they were just like, I don't know.
You're making fun of them. Are you like, are you really laughing? Are you?
You're just fake laughing.
Is this a sarcastic thing going on
Yeah.
here?
I'm laughing at you as a person, not what you're saying. So
there we go.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last thing I like to bring it back to a positive thing, because it can be professionally, or it can be through comedy or personal or whatever, it doesn't matter. But what's something you're really proud of that you've achieved so far in life?
Ooh, that's a good question. What am I really proud of? I think I'm proud of helping my mom through her appeal when she was wrongfully charged and spent time in jail. That was a really big accomplishment for me.
Wow. So you helped your mom with an appeal that got her out of jail.
Yep. Overturning
Wow.
her charges. Yeah. So she was wrongfully charged. Yeah.
And you're not a lawyer?
Nope. No.
Have you thought about that? Has that
Yeah.
ever occurred to you? Have you thought about becoming an attorney or anything like that?
Yeah, I really seriously considered it. I took the LSAT and everything, and then ended up not going because of debt I already have. But yeah, I seriously looked at that. It was more me coordinating lawyers and trying to find people to meet with to help. And really we got lucky. We had some people who helped us. So lawyers who helped us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an interesting story.
Yeah. And I think making it through homelessness too, and then feeling comfortable kind of sharing that story, those would be the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah. Have you shared that story in full anywhere? Like, as far as, writing about it or anything like that? Or
I've shared bits and pieces of it, and it definitely comes out whenever I talk to people, but I'm working on writing it out fully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because that's pretty crazy that you have homelessness, running from the law.
Yeah.
Charges appealed.
That's,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, I know. And especially when I talk about being homeless, people look at me like, no, you weren't. Like, just the way you judge me, like, based off the way I look, you wouldn't expect any of those things.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But that's how people are. A lot of people, we judge prematurely all the time. And it's always based off what you see on the surface. People don't want to take the time to, like, see what's beneath the surface. It's just, what can I see at the top, and that's good enough for me. I don't want to dive in deeper.
Yeah. Well, it's a mental shortcut, I guess. It makes sense that we do that. But I think once you've been through something like that, then you don't see anyone or any circumstance the same anymore. And that's definitely a blessing of it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Where can people find you? Plug your social media.
Yeah, so it's LAU_Rice. It's in this corner.
Yep, there you go.
On Twitter and Instagram, Lauren Rice is my Facebook. You can add me as a friend. And I might change that handle because a lot of people are like, wow, Rice? I don't know. We'll see. But that's where I am right now.
Okay. Do you have a website?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a blog or something?
Yep, I have a website. Yeah, it's my first name that's my email. Never mind. LaurenRice.org. Everyone send me an email.
There you go. LaurenRice.org.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Lauren, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been fun.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitz Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Bublitz Jr., The Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help The Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to The Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week, and remember, stay safe so you can live to love.